Change, change, change.
Change, change, change.
Change, change, change.
Change, change, change.
Change, change, change. Change the life.
In today's video, I'm talking about menopause. And if you're a guy and about to switch off, then don't, because this affects you too. Not just because it may help you to understand your partner better, but male menopause is an actual thing too. Menopause, or the change of life, is a part of life that occurs due to hormonal changes that take place in much the same way as they did in puberty. It's widely accepted and acknowledged that teens go through a rebellious phase due to the hormonal transition that takes place during puberty. But just as they gave us all that trouble back then, they cause us the same amount, if not more trouble, when they leave us. And that's what happens in the change. The pituitary gland located at the base of the brain is responsible for hormones, and when there is an imbalance or a change, it causes havoc on our entire bodies. These changes can start to occur quite some time before the reproductive system in a woman shuts up shop permanently. The female hormone deficiency is estrogen and progesterone, while in males there is a scientific drop in testosterone around the same age as the average female begins menopause. Biologically, this is logical, in the sense that as the female becomes less likely to reproduce, and given that sex is the conduit for that, the drop in testosterone, the male sex hormone, will cause a drop in his sex drive that will balance with his counterpart. While that might work scientifically, the physical body doesn't account for all the differences, emotional and psychological, we as humans have, and the many different types of relationships that exist. And that sex isn't predominantly just to do with reproduction in our species. Let's look at women first. Women choose to have children older now, so menopause, if it comes early, can cause fertility problems. But even in a woman who has completed her family, the shutting down of the reproduction system can trigger a deep sense of grief. She may not even be able to vocalise what the grief is about, but most likely it's mourning what we feel as the loss of our youth. It's a time when you start to think about the past a lot, the good and the bad. Maybe feeling regrets and even a feeling of urgency to do the things that you feel you didn't get to do. This is known as midlife crisis, and it very much affects men too. In the same way teenagers rebel, midlife crisis is a kind of rebellion against ageing. Our fear of ageing is a natural survival instinct, as ageing is associated ultimately with death and demise. People who never suffered with anxiety may begin to suffer from it. This is due to the body producing more cortisol, which is the hormone released through fear. So the more anxious we get, the more we produce it. Sometimes the drop in the sexual hormones without the psychological issues can trigger overproduction of cortisol. Just like we got growing pains, the drop in hormones cause aging pains, so we are likely to start feeling stiff and aches where we never had them before. Hot flushes is the best known symptom of menopause, affecting only females, but in actual fact there are over 40 symptoms of menopause, which include headaches, nausea, brain fog, skin irritation, vaginal atrophy, extreme fatigue, sore breasts, UTIs. It's a mammoth list. It's no wonder that many women feel like their whole body is malfunctioning, or that they are simply going crazy. The majority of women lose or have a decreased sex drive also. Understanding how and why our bodies do what they do is important and can really help in issues that arise due to the change in both males and females. It is definitely a time to start looking after yourself both physically and mentally. Society seems to be more tolerant of pubescent behaviours and mistakes, but when you are going through your second puberty or adolescence, there is a lot more pressure and responsibility there. As we get older, we are not expected or allowed to make mistakes or make irrational choices. At 15 or 16, we think we have our whole life in front of us, so there's room for error, time to redo things. We don't have that same optimism in later life. However, with a bit more awareness and by being kind to ourselves, we can get through it.